Good morning friends and welcome to the pre-market view. US markets were up about 0.4 to 0.5% and European markets were down anywhere from about 0.5% to almost about 1.25%, and when we look at the Asian markets today morning, Nikkei is down almost about 0.85%, Shanghai is also down about 0.4%. However, Hang Seng markets are showing some kind of an uptick at about 0.5, 0.6%. Some of the data points which have come out from China have not been up to the mark, and that is leading to some kind of weakness in the Asian markets. Also, the important Fed meeting is going to take place on 17th of this month, where decision on rate hike will be taken, and if a marginal or a taken rate hike is actually done, then that will be positive news for our markets, and that will be a relief for most of the markets in terms of an important event being over. In terms of flows, friends, on Friday the FIs were net sellers in the cash market to the tune of about 748 odd crore. However, the domestic institutions were biased to the tune of about 440 crore, and in the index futures the FIs were net biased to the tune of about 245 odd crore. Overall, our markets continue to remain quite weak. There is not any kind of meaningful pullbacks that we are seeing on the back of the consistent negative flows. We had some important development on Friday in terms of the IIP number, which was slightly better than what the market was expecting at about 4.4%. But till we get clarity on what really happens in the US markets in terms of the rate hike or otherwise, and the Chinese market stabilization, we are not going to see any meaningful uptick in our markets. On that note, let me invite Tarang to take us through important FAQs and ideas that we can have from the derivative desk.
Good morning friends, I will give analysis on derivatives. In Friday's trading session, taking mixed cues from the international markets, our markets also open on a flattish note, and throughout the day we have seen Nifty oscillating between negative and positive territory, and has been trading in a narrow range of around 20-30 points throughout the day. But it was in the last half an hour to 1 hour of trade we have seen a sharp movement in Nifty in both the direction, and eventually it managed to close 0.5% lower at 7789.35. In the Friday trading session, the losses in automobiles, metal and oil and gas were paired off by gains in banking, information technology, fast-moving consumer goods sectors, reality and pharma sector stocks, due to which we have seen Nifty restricted its gain, restricted its losses, and eventually it managed to close on a flattish note at 7789.35. The open interest term, we have seen a half a percentage build up in open interest, that is around 1.45 lakh shares were added in open interest. Cost of carry did decrease significantly from 7% to just currently positive 0.02%, indicating some kind of short build up was observed by market participants in Friday's trading session. On the open interest terms, we have seen a decrease of around 2 odd basis points. From 0.95 to 0.93 levels. In line with the market going down, we have seen some kind of decrease in put call ratio of 2 basis points, 0.9 at 0.93, and volatility index have been more or less same at 24.98 levels. Now the options activity, 7,800 call option has seen some kind of unwinding in Friday's trade of around 3 odd percentage. However, higher strike price call option has been quite active and has been seeing significant amount of addition in open interest from last few trading sessions. 7,900 and 8,000 call option have seen an addition of around 7% and 16% respectively. However, still the addition is not so major where we can signify that the higher levels can act as a stiff resistance. The open interest build-up are still minimal, hence market can cross this highest level in the coming trading sessions if we see a significant amount of long positions getting built up or with the help of short covering. And the put option, we have seen an unwinding in 7,600 and 7,700 strike price of around 1% to 7% respectively. However, 7,500, which is the highest in terms of open interest, has seen some addition after seeing continuous unwinding in the last 2 to 3 trading session. In Friday's trade, we have seen some addition of around 2.5%. However, the addition is very less, but 2.5% to be taken as seeing its highest in terms of open interest with around 44 lakh shares in it. So seeing the options data and the derivatives data, it feels a market could find some kind of support near 7,700, 7,750. On the higher levels, we may see 8,000 levels can be seen in coming trading session. There are two securities in bank period for today's trade, that is Amtech Auto and Century Textiles. On FIS terms, in index futures, there were net buyers of around 240 odd crores, while in index options, there were net sellers of 1232 odd crores. Now, FIS, after seeing net buyers in the in the start of the series, we have started seeing FIS being selling in selling in index options, especially I'm talking about the index options. And we have seen in the start of the series there were net buyers in index options in a huge quantity. Now they have been either squaring off their long positions and building the short positions in index options, seeing the implied volatility so high. FIs are taking advantage by shorting options, and we feel seeing FIs, if more kind of shorting has been done by FIs in the coming trading session in index options, the market, the volatility in the market would squeeze considerably, and we may see Nifty being in the range, in a narrow range for the rest of the expiry, or at least for next 4 to 5 trading sessions. Market could see in a narrow kind of a band. In stock futures, there were net buyers of 442 crores, and interesting option in stock futures also, they are covering the short position in stock futures, and in stock options, there were net buyers of around 30 odd crores. For the market level, 5 days we have stands at 7740 with a lower range at 7740 and higher range at 7900. As suggested, market in today's trading session 7740 ranges are VWAP level, should be watched quite closely in today's trade. However, SGX Nifty is pointing on the positive opening for the morning trade, suggesting a 31 point. SGX Nifty is currently around 32 points higher at 7811. Indicating some kind of positive opening can be expected in today's trade. That's it from derivatives. Thank you.
Friends, let me take you through Sharekhan pre-market action, starting with trading ideas. First of all, a long call on Kesoram Industries, as finally JK Tyre has signed a binding term sheet with Kesoram Industries to acquire 100% equity of the tire company CIL for about 2200 crore. That's a big positive for Kesoram, so one can go long there with a stop loss of 100.35 and a target of about 105.4 to about 107.5. IIP data that came over the weekend was positive at about 4.2% versus about 4.4% previous month, and in particular the capital goods growth came in at about 10.6% versus minus 3.6% month on month. So that's a big positive for the capital goods sector, so one can go long on L&T with a stop loss of 1567 and a target of about 1647 to about 1678. Also for L&T Finance Holding, Bain Capital is set to announce the acquisition of about 2000 crore stake in the company, and this transaction is likely to take place at about 70 to 75 rupees per share. So that's positive for L&T Finance, so one can go long there with a stop loss of 62.8 and a target of about 66.3 to about 67.4. In other news and updates, the IIP number that came over the weekend came in at about 4.2 versus 4.4%. Adani to expand capacity of its Udupi power plant by about 1600 megawatts, which will cost them about 9,000 odd crore. India Post Housing Finance managed to raise close to about 4,000 crore through a QIP at a price of 702. And Gujarat Gas is going to be listed on the bourses on 15th of September. JP Power says company's 400 megawatt hydro power plant resumes power generation. Also, Jaiprakash Power Ventures net profit grew almost 7-fold to about 137 crore. That got reported on Saturday. Godrej Consumer Products completed the acquisition of 40% stake in Chili's Cosmetica National. Borosil Glass Works is going to have a buyback proposal for about 6.9 lakh shares at a price of about 2,500 rupees per share. State finance ministers are going to be meeting on September 15 to finalize the GST legislation. Vivimed Lab is going to divest specialty chemical business for about 380 crore, and the government is expected to extend the interest subsidy scheme for exporters for 3 years to help boost overseas shipments. And aluminium industry is asking for some kind of import duty hike to protect themselves from the price fall due to Chinese dumping. Pioneer Natural Resources Company partner, who's partner with Reliance Industries, is in the US has cut the production growth forecast for oil and gas for 2015 to 2% from 9%, which was announced at the beginning of the year. GE Capital plans to pull out of its credit card JV with State Bank of India and SBI cards. And CPI for August is likely to come in at about 3.58% versus 3.78% in July. And this will be released on Monday, that's today, post-market. And WPI August is expected at minus 4.36% versus prior month of minus 4.05%. This will be released during market hours today. Stocks with positive and negative bias. Positive bias stocks are CET, SRF, BPCL. Stocks with negative bias are BEL, M&M and SAIL. Stocks for investment that we like at this point of time are Aditya Birla Nuvo, Britannia, HDFC Bank, TCS and Maruti. That's it from all of us, friends. Have a good trading session and see you tomorrow at the same time.